Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. 2020 will see the start of a deeper economy for the persistent universe, and I wanted to talk about what's planned for the economy, its model, related features, and gameplay that we might get over the coming year. The current economy is very static, and there are progression resets every so often, at least with every major patch. However, in a 3.8.x patch, so before the end of Q1 2020, we are going to get platform persistence, and this will have Alpha UEC and Alpha UEC purchases in-game, not game reset every patch, though resets will still occur in the future. Fuller persistence is also apparently planned for later in 2020, allowing for object location data, reputation, character data, and more to be saved between patches and on the server as well, and hopefully very few resets after that, or at least less. For Alpha 3.9, there's actually quite a bit planned, so let's start with one of the most important features, the new Mobiglass accountancy app that they've got planned. This will display a variety of information about a player's active financial commitments, including rentals, insurance, organisation membership fees, and associated benefits with that. They are planning organisations for the game that are sort of like guilds, so NPC-run organisations like a bounty hunters guild and stuff that will allow you to engage people or give you more information about people's last sort of like known location when they're a criminal. It also allows for such commitments to be extended and cancelled. There is a hope and possibility that at this stage, in the first iteration of this app, it will allow for wallet-to-wallet transactions. Basically, the ability to send Alpha UEC to another player without having to misuse the service beacon system. This is so important to Star Citizen's persistent universe, even at this stage, making payments and transactions between players much more simple. And if it's not in 3.9, then it's likely to come in 2020. Another big economy change that we know about is the commodity transfer timer system. This has conditional timers added to the loading-unloading process of cargo, so moving cargo effectively will take time to complete, with the duration dependent on the location, the current level of demand for such services, whether an additional fee to expedite has been paid, and the quantity of material being transferred, and how much manpower is in that area, that sort of stuff. Ships will be unavailable until such processes have been completed. This will change the way cargo running is done, the value of resources, where players trade, and potentially will lead to some more gameplay during this downtime. One of the ways you might want to spend this downtime is looking at the new economy display terminals. These are billboards and sort of like MFDs and screens that show real-time economy information, including commodity prices, available missions, payments, retail sale events, area threat levels, universe data, and opportunities for you to make money. Some of the ideas they had behind this was having open missions and sort of like open requests for certain amounts of materials by factories and planets and stations and that sort of stuff. But this information and it being displayed to the player is really important because they want the economy to be dynamic and danger zones to evolve and to have the sort of like balance of risk and reward, and that to change over time based on each trade route, and that's going to require players to do a quick bit of research to work out which is the best trade route at the moment and which is dangerous, which isn't, that sort of stuff. Directly tied into the economy as well is the dynamic mission system, allowing missions featuring specific locations, rewards, and other parameters to be dynamically dictated based on the back-end simulation and player actions, which in turn enables a more systemic universe and the real-time customization of mission content based upon the economy. This will include the ability to vary where missions are offered, in what quantity, and the payment you get. It's also going to allow the mission templates to be injected with environmental information at runtime, enabling the creation of content that's both more diverse and more accurately representative of the simulated universe at any given moment in time. General missions are becoming multi-part as well, and will have multiple sub-objectives. Not all missions, but at the very least expect lots more types of mission, much more variance and modularity in these missions. No two missions should be identical, pretty much. Well, it's very unlikely. Events you get during traversal will also be affected by the economy. Pirates will interdict you based on trade routes and their hotness, how valuable, how risky and rewardy is it for the pirates. Conversely, security forces will protect those routes too. You'll see distress signals and other events as you move around, and that should be related to what is going on in the area, based on the economy, based on the missions, based on all that sort of jazz. And that is starting to come into in 3.9 and in 2020 in general. This all combined is the first steps towards that dynamic universe that CIG want for Star Citizen. Other major expansions of this gameplay are the addition of Microtext Landing Zone, New Babbage, the planet being hooked up to new missions, new mission givers, and also later on in the year, Crusader, its floating city Orison, jump points, a new star system Pyro, which will be very lawless and pirate heavy. You're likely to see pirate incursions coming out of Pyro, and that sort of be their escape routes as well. So you'll have to bear that sort of stuff in mind. But all those new locations together allow the mission system to expand and provide new trade routes and hotspots of activity. With the new updates to the player status system as well, heat, food and drink, that's all going to be taken into account. So environmental gear will be required and sold around the universe, and food and drink will be some form of commodity, but also be consumable. I actually think that potentially even by the end of 2020, consumables like medipens, food and drink, and ammo will be very, very valuable in areas of the game outside where you can get them lawfully. So potentially in like the Pyro system, selling food and drink might be very valuable in certain areas, that sort of stuff. But that's going to depend on how to be trade with players, and is it just you can take commodities from Stanton to the Ruin Station at Pyro and make a load of money. Very, very risky to do that sort of stuff. So it depends on how they expand those systems out. Is there going to be player-to-player transactional trade by that time? They haven't mentioned it yet, but it's something that I would love to see. There are more space stations that are coming, both automated and unoccupied. These are going to help build out the universe as well. I think that larger cargo stations are also planned for 2020. Even prison gameplay is going to add a new type of currency, merits, which you can earn at the Klesha automated prison by being a criminal there. Basically, you'll get them over time by trading them with other inmates or from actually mining there and doing grunt work. We know that mining is evolving from patch to patch as a gameplay mechanic as well. They update various aspects of the mechanics every patch pretty much. It's getting a load of polish. They are going to be adding consumable items for ships as well, but salvage and some of the other major gameplay loops are obviously going to be major additions to gameplay and the economy. Salvage has slipped off the roadmap at the moment. At the end of 2020, it slipped off. It was supposed to be for 4.0. It kept on getting delayed, but now it's actually off the roadmap. We don't know when it's going to land. It's expected to land in 2020. Please, CIG, why you hate salvage, please give to us without delay. Refineries as well was something that were on the roadmap and have been moved off. I would expect to see them in 2020. This will be an extra step in the process of mining if you wish to do it, which would have you going to a refinery. Maybe you could sell your minables there, but you could also use the facilities there and time and a little bit of money to have those minables crunched down into more usable smaller amounts of more usable sort of items and processed ores, that sort of stuff. But in general, more gameplay loops, the better. They all add to the economy. They all expand out the universe and economy. Even to ship-to-station docking, which is currently planned for 4.0, is incredibly important, allowing for larger ships to dock with stations in orbit to buy, sell, as well as rearm, repair, and refuel, I suppose. Something that the 890 Jump and the Reclaimer would have to currently go planetside for. That's not ideal, such a large ship. You want to be able to trade with those stations. This is essential for large-scale ships and haulers to function in the game. We know that the Hull C was scheduled for completion by the end of 2019 for Squadron 42's needs, but isn't in the PU yet. That's a gigantic hauler, which could make it into the game in 2020 if ship-to-station docking is complete and they solve the issues with the animated physics grids. Basically, the spindles of the Hull C need to be able to expand and retract without issue. As the law system and criminal versus lawful gameplay expands through 2020, we should see an economy that supports this for both sides. So bounty hunting, smuggling, CIG are working on an extended cargo system and mechanics. So we're talking about moving boxes between between ships by hand. That allows for proper piracy, as does the potential for player-to-player transactions, so you can actually extort people or threaten them to give you money or whatever. So that's sort of like some of these interesting gameplay mechanics that we might see evolve throughout 2020. And previously as well, CIG have talked about potentially selling stolen ships at places like scrapyards, so that's something we could see. For me, I'm hoping that in 2020 that we will see locational data that you can save and share. So this would allow you to save a location that you are in like an asteroid belt. Like if you've gone to the Aaron Halo and you've zoomed around for a bit, you want to save a location there so you can get there quicker, or because there's some really, really lucrative asteroids there, or you want to save points for quantum travel for safer or quicker routes for trade, that sort of stuff. I think that's incredibly important, that locational data, and then being able to share that between people. I do hope we get data running in 2020. I think that's probably quite a simple mechanic for them to implement cargo data is cargo, cargo is data. So that'll be interesting to see, because I do think that's got a lot of gameplay associated with it. Another thing CIG wanted to get into the game as soon as possible, I suppose, in the not too distant future, is the use of resources in manufacturing, shop stock, and mission generation. So resources dynamically deplete based on the needs of the planets, shops, and everything that use them, and build those objects in factories. Physical inventory as well may affect the economy pretty heavily as well. They were talking about having items be able to be delivered straight to your hab or your ship. This could well be the start of sort of like getting rentable storage space for your cargo as well, even if it's sort of like a placeholder before they actually have the physicalized spaces for it. I mean, we don't really need physicalized spaces for the storing of our cargo for rent, I suppose. We could just rent it, don't need to be able to see it, maybe. Admittedly, not all of this stuff might come in 2020. However, there's a good chance that a lot of it will, and at least in the sort of like first iterations, the first sort of steps towards those mechanics getting put in the game, we'll see some parts of them. If you want to know more about the dynamic economy and the sort of like simulation of the universe, there was a panel from Tony Zerovic at CitizenCon, which I've made a summary of and put up the full thing, and which I will put down below in the description. They are very much worth watching if you want to know how the economy and simulation is evolving for the game. And we should start to see a lot of this stuff, at least steps towards it, at least the start of it in 3.9. So genuinely at the end of Q1 2020, at least that's what it's currently listed on the roadmap. It is genuinely the first steps towards that dynamic economy to dynamic mission system, that really important stuff that we need in the game to make it an MMO. And hopefully they don't reschedule major parts of that in January. We will know a bit more in the next few weeks and what's happening with the roadmaps, if anything changes. But what do you think? With greater persistence in our dynamic economy, do you think we could sink thousands of hours into Star Citizen, or that you could sink thousands of hours into Star Citizen? Or do you need a bit more of its gameplay features complete first? Is it something you're going to be playing in a couple of years' time? Do you want to be a trader or a escort or a pirate? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway for January 2020. It's for an Anvil Arrow and Star Citizen game package. Just comment on any of my videos made this month to be in for a chance. More details in the description below. Oh, it's time to shill. If you're looking for a VPN, then consider NordVPN. They have many advantages over free VPNs, but are incredibly cheap, and I use them and can recommend. There's Shadow as well, which is an alternative to owning your own gaming PC. They give you a sort of Windows 10 environment focused on gaming, and it leverages the power of your internet and their cloud so that you can stream it to any device or other PC or laptop or phone or whatever. And you can now order systems with varying scales of hardware for up to 4K gaming. And as always, it works fantastically well with Star Citizen. It's an extremely affordable way to get access to a high-spec PC. Links below to Shadow and Nord, and make sure you use the code BoredGamer to get a discount. Thank you very much for watching, and if you want to support my channel further, consider becoming a Patreon or YouTube member via the join button, or sharing my videos, or liking and subscribing. Take care, and I'll see you in the verse.